Imagine being told your whole life that charity is about giving money away. Now imagine discovering that for many billionaires, charity is actually one of their most powerful investment tools. They donate, get massive tax breaks, keep control of the money, invest it, grow it, shape public opinion, and sometimes even profit from the so-called good causes they support. Most people see a big foundation logo and think, wow, that's generous. But very few people ever stop and ask, who really benefits when the ultra-rich give money away? In this video, we're going to break down how billionaire philanthropy has quietly turned into a money and power machine, how impact investing and doing good became a business model, and what this new trend means for you, your taxes, and even the stocks and funds you invest in. Stay with me, because once you understand this system, you'll never look at charity the same way again. Before we jump in, let's be clear about one thing. Not all philanthropy is evil. A lot of real good does happen, but when we're talking about billionaire-level giving, the giant foundations, charitable trusts, and impact funds, we're no longer just talking about kindness, we're talking about power. A few hundred people can move billions of dollars with almost no public vote, no election, and very little transparency. Their charitable money shapes what research gets funded, which startups get capital, what policies are pushed, and even what you see as normal in the news. And here's why this matters for you. It affects how much tax they pay versus how much you pay. It affects which companies and sectors get long-term support, and it affects the stories you're told about money, markets, and the future. To see how this works, we need to start with the core engine of this machine, the modern foundation. When you or I donate to a local charity, the money leaves our hands. But when a billionaire sets up a private foundation, the game is different. Here's how it works in simple terms. They move a huge chunk of wealth, sometimes hundreds of millions or even billions, into a foundation. Legally, that counts as charitable giving, and they get big tax deductions right away. But the money doesn't disappear. It now sits in an investment pool they still control through their board and trustees. In many countries, including the United States, foundations are only required to spend a small percentage of their assets each year on actual charitable programs, often around 5%. The other 95% can stay invested in stocks, bonds, private equity, hedge funds, and other assets. In other words, it becomes a giant investment portfolio with a charity label on it. So what this really looks like is this. They donate $1 billion and get tax breaks today. They invest that billion in the markets, they give away a slice each year, and let the rest keep compounding and growing. From the outside, the headlines say, "Billionaire pledges fortune to charity." On the inside, a lot of that fortune is now sitting in a tax-advantaged investment vehicle that they quietly steer for decades. What this means for you is important. When you hear that someone gave away half their wealth, understand that much of it is now in a foundation that still behaves like an investment fund. The tax system is giving huge benefits up front, which means less tax revenue for public services, while control over capital shifts into private hands. And this pool of philanthropic money is now a major player in financial markets, buying the same stocks, bonds, and funds you might own. Most big foundations don't keep billions sitting in cash. They act like large institutional investors. They hire asset managers and invest in blue-chip stocks, index funds, private equity, real estate, hedge funds, and increasingly what they call impact investments. If their portfolio earns, say, 7 to 8% per year on average, they can pay out the required 5% in grants, pay their staff and operating costs, and still keep the total pie the same size or even larger over time. So the story becomes, we're giving away millions every year, but the capital base stays huge and the foundation's influence never shrinks. This also gives them a powerful seat at the table. They can invest early in promising startups. They can sit on boards and advisory councils. They can quietly steer capital toward industries they think or want to shape. Again, what this means for you is that when you invest in certain sectors like clean energy, health technology, education technology, artificial intelligence, safety, or climate solutions, you're often investing alongside large foundations and endowments, whether you realize it or not. Their long-term capital can support entire industries for decades, even when short-term investors get scared. At the same time, their money can also crowd out other priorities that never get funded because they don't fit the philanthropic narrative of that elite group. So far, this is still plain vanilla investing. The real rebranding came with the rise of impact investing and ESG, environmental, social, and governance strategies. Over the last decade, you've probably heard phrases like impact investing, ESG, sustainable finance, and doing well by doing good. The idea sounds perfect. We'll invest in companies that make the world better and earn a financial return at the same time. For billionaire philanthropists, this is a dream setup. They can say, we're not just giving grants, we're investing in solutions. They still own assets and potentially make profits, and they get great public relations, articles, interviews, and awards for being visionary philanthropists. Examples include investing foundation money into clean energy startups, funding social impact bonds, backing private schools or health companies in developing countries, or putting cash into green funds and ESG exchange-traded funds. Some of this is genuinely positive. New technologies get financed and real problems get solved. But there are also issues. A project can be branded as impact or ESG with very weak standards. Some funds charge high fees to regular investors while piggybacking on the do-good story. And sometimes, philanthropy is used to open doors into new markets where later, for-profit ventures move in and dominate. For you as an investor, this means that just because a fund is labeled ESG or impact doesn't mean your money is purely doing good. It might simply be a marketing label on a normal investment product. When you see a billionaire or big foundation backing a cause, it's worth asking a simple question. Are they giving money away, or are they buying assets, influence, and future profit streams that are labeled as doing good? Most investors never look under the hood. They see the word sustainable and assume their morals and their money are perfectly aligned. But the real power of philanthropic money isn't just in investments. It's in shaping the story. Money doesn't just buy stocks, it buys attention. Foundations and big donors fund think tanks and research centers, give large donations to universities, sponsor conferences, awards, and media projects, and put their names on hospitals, museums, and schools. On paper, it looks like pure generosity. In practice, it also shapes what gets researched, which policy ideas are considered serious, and what problems are framed as urgent or quietly ignored. For example, if a foundation funds a lot of research on climate technology, that topic gets more media coverage, more political attention, and more private investment. If they fund particular ideas about education or health, those ideas start to feel like the only reasonable options in the debate. This is soft power. You don't need to run for office if you can shape what every important person reads, studies, and talks about. What this means for you is that the financial content you see, the economic ideas that feel obvious, and the stories about which sectors will boom are often influenced by where philanthropic money flows. When you hear that everyone is talking about a certain trend, whether it's climate, artificial intelligence safety, or a particular type of healthcare, it's worth asking, who's paying for this conversation? Because if you don't ask that question, you may end up investing based on a narrative that was carefully curated, not naturally discovered. So where is this trend heading next? A few things are very likely. First, more wealth concentration usually means more philanthropy. As billionaire wealth grows, more money will move into foundations, donor-advised funds, and impact vehicles. Second, we'll see more blending of charity and investing. The lines will blur even further with things like philanthropic venture funds, blended finance, public-private partnerships, and big climate and health moonshot funds. Third, there will be more pressure on governments to let philanthropy fill gaps instead of raising taxes or expanding public services. There is also growing pushback. Some people want stricter rules on how quickly foundations must actually spend their money. Others argue for more transparency. They want to know where the money is invested and which companies are profiting from charitable capital. Whether or not those reforms happen, one thing is clear. Philanthropic money is not going away. It will be an even bigger force in markets, ideas, and politics over the next decade. So the question becomes, how do you navigate this as an individual investor and as a citizen? Let's turn this from theory into something useful. Here are a few practical ways to think differently after watching this. First, don't confuse charity with no self-interest. When you see a billionaire pledge billions or launch a big foundation, assume there's a mix of motives. Some genuine desire to help, plus tax benefits, plus influence, plus investment opportunities. That doesn't automatically make it bad, but it means you should look at it with open eyes, not blind trust. Second, be skeptical of labels like ESG and impact. If you invest in these funds, read at least one layer deeper. Ask what companies are actually inside. Are there high fees for the story you're being sold? Is the impact clearly defined or just feel-good marketing?
Third, watch where big foundations are placing long-term bets. They often invest early in sectors like climate technology, biotech, artificial intelligence and data, education, and healthcare. That can signal areas that will have heavy institutional support for years. It doesn't mean you should chase every theme, but it tells you where the deep money is flowing. Fourth, pay attention to who funds the ideas you consume. When you see a big report, documentary, or campaign about a hot topic, check the sponsor. Knowing who paid the bill can help you spot hidden biases before you move your money. And finally, remember that this video is education, not advice. I'm not telling you what to buy or sell.
This is not financial advice. Always do your own research and talk to a qualified financial professional before making big investment decisions. The real goal is simple: to help you see the system more clearly so you're not the last one to understand how the game is actually played. So how do billionaires turn charity into a money and power machine? They move wealth into foundations, get tax breaks, invest the capital, brand their bets as impact, and use soft power to shape which problems the world focuses on, all while keeping a surprising amount of control. The next time you see a giant donation headline or a glossy video about a big philanthropic initiative, you'll know there's probably a lot more happening behind the scenes than pure generosity. If you found this breakdown helpful and you want more videos on how money, power, and markets really work, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Now, I want to hear from you in the comments. Do you think billionaire philanthropy is mostly helpful, mostly about control, or a mix of both? And would you ever invest in an impact fund now that you've seen how this game works? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.